Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy. I'm your host Lex, and I'm joined by my co-host
Chris Boudreaux. I'm sorry.
We are a video game news podcast broadcasting live on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast weekly, Fridays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, although tonight we're starting at 9 because we felt like it. It is...
Busy men.
Yes, it is October 27th, which makes Chris Boudreaux's name introduction make a little more sense.
Just a little bit.
We have some stories. We have stories about a lot of things dying this week, which I guess also keeps in theming, so that's good.
The ghost of video game industry's past.
Yes, so we have some a big deal forum that is pretty much going away from some drama that happened last weekend, actually, right after we did our show.
Yeah.
We have a peripheral dying that should have died a long time ago, or perhaps should never have been born.
Should have been stillborn.
Yes. After that, we will be talking about games numbers, then announcements from Nintendo, 2 different announcements from Nintendo. Also some leaks from CD Projekt Red and its upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077, followed by another story that I can't remember what happens in it. And we're going to round the show out by talking about games that are coming out soon and have just come out and are coming out this week, and big games that came out this week. Oh, goodness.
Games and games.
If you want to follow us on social media, we can be found on YouTube, obviously Twitch, and Twitter. Those are our big ones. Also Facebook, some other places. We're on Steam, technically, sort of not. And we
GeoCities account.
We have GeoCities, we have a MySpace, everything that's good. So you could you could find us by searching Don't Copy That Floppy podcast or DCTF podcast. Specifically, that's our Twitter handle. And let's get started.
Yes, sir.
NeoGAF.
The GAF.
The GAF comes to an end. NeoGAF goes silent following allegations against owner. This is a story that, like I said, erupted last weekend in full force, causing the NeoGAF forum to shut down. For those who don't know, NeoGAF is a online forum for video game stuff. And
crazy video game fans.
Yes.
And others.
There's a whole lot of leaks that come through NeoGAF. Like, apparently there's a lot of people that work in the industry that leak stuff onto that forum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's, cool in that it's been a great source of news over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll bring that up. I wanted to bring up something about that once you get through the actual events of why they closed.
So NeoGAF, like I said, forum, it is run by one guy, Tyler Malka. Username or handle, Evilor. Which is, it's such a stereotypical,
I know.
handle.
It's like of course you'd suspect somebody of sexual abuse when their name is Evilor.
Yes. So we had...
Or Weinstein.
We had over last Saturday, or maybe it was Friday, I think it was Saturday though, we had a woman named Ima Layup. It's like IMA, last name LEUPP. So
I'm a layup.
Yeah, I don't think I'm pronouncing that last name right. I apologize. But she spoke on Twitter, used the hashtag #MeToo that's been in heavy use lately, and talked about an assault that she had in 2015, in which she was in New Orleans with someone who she considered to be a friend. They were both drinking. They went back to their hotel. She went into the shower, and then he followed her into the shower. So that was not acceptable. And when people were like, "Hey, who is this person?" her response was, "Oh, you should Google Evilor." And that was she might as well have just said his name. It was about as unsubtle as you can be.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were upset about this, and they posted to the NeoGAF forum saying, "Hey, what the hell, man? This is not okay that you did this." And the response from Malka and a bunch of the different moderators was to just ban people who were bringing this to everyone else's attention and to shut down the threads that were talking about it.
Yeah.
And basically not really issue a statement, just silence anyone who was trying to say anything about it for, I don't know, less than a day, I want to say. And then the site itself entirely went down on Saturday night and remained down all of Sunday and into Monday, I believe.
Yes, I think so. It was a while.
Yeah. This was very disappointing.
Yeah.
And really caused
Especially with there was no statement during that whole time either.
No, not at all. He just didn't want to talk about it. What was it? This caused a mass exodus of a lot of people saying we're not gonna. I think we have a screenshot here from a NeoGAF thread saying that this is truly disgusting, and denouncing the owner of the site and saying I'm out of here. This is we're gone. This is done.
No. Most importantly, a large portion of the mod team said "fuck this" and left, along with a large portion of the user base. I have a friend that has been on GAF forever. He's an old school GAFer, and even he was like, "Wow, fuck this place," and just started shit posting to get himself banned, essentially. But according to him, I did talk to him a little bit about it, and he was like, "This place, it's always been very internety in NeoGAF." Meaning that it's just a really highly toxic place, really kind of, it's an internet forum about video games, so it's to be expected, but it just, it's the big one, and it's just kind of generally a shitty place.
Well, that's interesting, because one of the things that I've seen on the internet lately, because I did not frequent NeoGAF, so I can't speak to a lot of its content, although I would do stories on the show that cited leaks that were on NeoGAF, but I wasn't typically on NeoGAF to see the leaks firsthand. I'm not on there, but a lot of people who are on the right on the internet are actually rejoicing the fall of NeoGAF because they saw it as way too liberal, which
it was always seen as like a place that was supposed to be very progressive. To what degree that is true, I'm not entirely sure. I just know the friend I was talking to was just like, "Oh, it's always sucked,"
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that the principles were that they were to be progressive and kind of a little more on the liberal side.
Yeah. So a lot of the people have decided that they're going to start a new website.
Yes. I did want to ask you, so you said that you never really knew anything about NeoGAF much.
I mean, I knew of its existence, but I did not frequent it.
Right. So yeah, I didn't either. Like it started in 2006. And I always just knew it was, that place on the internet about video games. I never really knew much about it until I started writing for a video game website. And I soon found out that NeoGAF for video games media, for enthusiast press, NeoGAF is basically like the AP Newswire, and it is like where you pretty much pull a lot of stories from and a lot of news, especially like while I was there for a time, I was on kind of the breaking news side of things, which means that you have to try to write news stories as quickly as possible to get them to aggregators before any other sites do, so that you can get more traffic.
Great.
And so it's kind of nerve-wracking but kind of fun. You're playing the game of how fast can you get a story on WordPress and then get it to like N4G, which is like basically like it's a news aggregation site for video game news essentially. And so I would have that NeoGAF new threads. It used to be called something else, but I had that Twitter account basically open just like a newswire on one of my monitors all day long, and it would just come up with relevant new threads on NeoGAF, and I would just always keep an eye on it all day long. And it was just like, this thing's happened, and then you'd be like, boom, new screenshots for Metal Gear Solid 5 are leaked, and it's like, grab it, fucking get in WordPress as fast as you fucking can and do it. So yeah, I was never on the site. I had an account to access the stuff, but I never really engaged too much in the forums. But as far as the video game media enthusiast press side of things, it's an incredibly important site. It's an important tool. just because it is basically aggregating so much news from really fucking, in some cases, fanatical gamers, and in some cases, industry insiders, essentially, that do have scoops and are willing to share them. So yes, it's good that, although the reason for NeoGAF falling is probably a good one, because fuck that guy if he is a shitty piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's good that there's something that may be taking its place very quickly, because I think that a lot of games quote unquote press, games quote unquote journalists would have a real hard time getting their click throughs on their sites without something like it.
I will point out that it is back up with a shell of the community that it has because a lot of people left. But the mods that are still loyal to Evilore are on there. I don't know how many that is, but I assume a much smaller percentage. And Tyler Malka did release a statement finally on that, but his statement was basically just, she's lying. Yeah, and that was all that he said. So
he denies it.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, don't want to play devil's advocate with this shit, but it's like, there is no hard evidence, so it's like he's although there is other evidence of him being kind of a shitty person in other facets of life, and so it's like you gotta, if it's true, it's horrible and should be investigated seriously, but it's like who the fuck knows, really, at the end of the day,
Well, I mean, I think part of it was just, even if it's not true, he handled it so poorly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he bumbled that one real hard.
But, so...
All right, you're gonna live there?
Maybe not. I think I'm dead.
Choking on video game news.
It's too gross. I can't
It really is gross. I'm gonna puke.
But, so a lot of people have created a new site called Reset Era.
Mm-hmm.
That I think has gone up already.
Let's find out.
Yep, on Wednesday night. So, a few nights ago, they launched it.
Cool.
And it is... they're trying to avoid the same pitfall that NeoGAF had by setting it up as... I think it's an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So they've set it up as an LLC so that no single person will be in charge of the site, which they hope will prevent the same catastrophe from happening again.
Yeah.
Which is...
Smart.
Yeah, it's a good idea. But so now it's actually interesting, because now we've got sort of this competition that's going to happen, right? With what remains of NeoGAF and then Reset Era, and we'll see which one comes out on top as actually being the relevant source of video game news and leaks and stuff like that, which I'm kind of interested to see, because if it remains NeoGAF, then that says something, pretty bad about a lot of people in the industry, which is that, they're going to leak and they don't care that NeoGAF has this tarnished reputation now, this severely tarnished reputation. They're just going to, they might just think, well, this is the place that everybody always used, so I'm not going to change.
Right.
Which I really hope is not what happens.
Right. And I'm like I said, I'm not too familiar with the off-topic threads. But at least the video game portion of it'll depend on, because there's really only a handful of actually relevant leakers on NeoGAF. There are ones that their leaks have come true enough that they're definitely talking from a place of knowledge. If it all depends on what that handful of them do, where they go. If the majority of them go to Reset Era, then that's going to be the more legitimate place. Because it's all, besides that, it's I guess it'll depend on the larger majority of the community too, but at least as far as its relevancy to the rest of the world and the industry, it'll depend on where those leakers go. The rest of it I couldn't give a shit about. I don't know. It'll be divided. It is a house divided in Fair Verona, where we lay our scene, but it's I don't know. I'm guessing that I don't know. I could be 50-50. I don't have an idea on it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that. But speaking of things that have died, let's move over to everybody's...
Or are dying.
or are dying. Let's move over to everybody's favorite Microsoft peripheral, the Kinect.
Yes, this is from Kotaku, from Cecilia Di Anastasio. It's a great name. With a great title, Kinect is officially dead.
Hooray!
First dead in our hearts and now dead at the manufacturing plant. The Kinect is no longer in production. Microsoft's experimental motion detecting camera, which first launched in November of 2010, will die off once existing retail stock is sold, Microsoft told website Fast Company in an interview. Thank God, Lex.
Finally.
There was the motion controls. You remember motion controls? God almighty.
Yeah, I don't understand why I understand why they took a gamble on it, because it is actually really fascinating technology, like assuming it worked, yes. Which it never really did correctly.
It didn't.
But the idea was interesting, but it was so weird that they kept pushing it.
Yeah.
Because what did Kinect originally come out for? Was it the
360?
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was for the 360. And then,
it was an add-on.
Yeah, and then when when everybody hated it on the 360 and it didn't work, Microsoft's response to that was, "Oh, so nobody liked that. So let's make it a necessary part of our next console,"
which made it cost more. And she mentions this in a part of this, and I think it's fascinating, actually. In November 2013, as part of a bundle with Xbox One, Microsoft launched a second, more improved iteration of the Kinect. Although many Xbox One players enjoyed using voice commands and other functionality, the Kinect proved to be an albatross from Microsoft's console, forcing the tech company to sell Xbox Ones at $500, $100 more than its biggest competitor, the PlayStation 4. In 2014, Microsoft cut bait, removing the Kinect from the Xbox One and slashing the console's price to $400. It had become clear by that time that the Kinect, or at least its use in gaming, was a phase. I think it's really interesting that perhaps the Xbox One could have been way more competitive in this console iteration if it didn't tie that fucking Kinect to it, because it made them, because they could have been competing at the same price point with PlayStation 4, which would have made it seem a lot more attractive. Even though it had other problems, like their whole "it's a TV machine" thing when they were pushing for that. But yeah, it's if they wouldn't have fucking done that, they maybe wouldn't be where they are today.
Well, that was Phil Spencer's decision, right? I want to say
that was Don Matrick.
Oh, okay.
And that's why Phil Spencer's been the guy with all the good ideas recently, because Xbox One got launched. It had all those it had that horrible press conference and all. They're like, yeah, it's DRM all the time. It always has to be online, and it's a TV machine, and it's going to be your cable box. And then everyone's like, fuck that. And PlayStation did like cute things, like one of the guys handing Shuhei Yoshida a game. It's like, this is how you trade games on a PlayStation 4, and he just hands him the game. He's like, thanks. It's like,
oh yeah, I mean that was sort of a separate issue, but the whole DRM stuff that associated with the Xbox One that it launched with.
Yeah, all those bad ideas, including the Kinect.
Yeah.
Were all under Don Matrick's kind of purview.
And but that's what I meant by Phil Spencer, that once they brought him in, he was like, yeah, let's get rid of all of these bad ideas. Yeah. So it was his idea to be like, let's remove the Kinect.
Yes, absolutely.
Bring the price point down, concentrate on gaming.
Games and cars on stages.
Yes. Cars on stages, always important. If you can get Pele in there.
You can get a little Pele. That's a bonus.
Yes. E3.
E3.
I wish it was E3 again, just so I could make fun of it.
This is actually something I didn't put in the rundown, but it's something that's interesting. Is that that PlayStation, Sony, said that they're going to be at Paris Games Week, obviously, which is coming soon. I don't know the exact date, but they said in their PlayStation blog that E3 was only half of the story, and that they were going to be announcing like 7 new games at Paris Games Week.
Oh,
and I was like, that's interesting. So yeah, not in the rundown here, but an interesting kind of tidbit nonetheless. We might be getting some E3 hype moments.
I can guarantee you that those games will not be big deal games.
Maybe not.
I mean,
maybe not all of them.
That would be a really good time to introduce a new FIFA. That would be when you bring Pele out. because
yeah.
because in Europe people care about soccer like in a big
Sure.
way. So like that would be the time to pimp all that stuff. But I don't think the Paris Game Show, is that just what it's called?
The Paris Games Week.
Paris Games Week is, I mean, like, I cover it sometimes, but like not every year. I don't think enough people give a shit about it for it to make sense for them to reveal big deal titles at it.
There'll probably be a lot of Sony VR stuff. There'll probably be...
You know, that's actually a really great example. Sony VR is a great example of a console peripheral that is introduced later and introduced gradually and well and has adopted its own niche audience.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And unlike the Kinect.
Yes, what the Kinect should have been. Oh, so the thing is, so Kinect took way too long to die. It was crazy that they kept pushing it for as long as they did. And I actually, because we sort of stopped hearing about it after it wasn't bundled anymore, because nobody bought them after that, since everyone was like, finally, I don't have to buy this thing. But it was still surprising to me that I was like, oh, they were still producing that. I hadn't realized.
Oh, yeah. I've heard from a lot of people that what they use it mostly for was like Skype on their TV, you know? So it's like, they'd be like, all right, everyone in the family, get the kids, dear, and sit them on the couch so we can call grandma and grandpa on the TV, you know? Like, and they'd use that camera and microphone as a setup. Interesting thing now is that it's not something that Microsoft advertises, but you can plug in like a Logitech webcam into your Xbox One and it works the same.
Oh, so, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can just use that. It was a time when everyone thought that motion controls were the new thing. Nintendo was the only one that pulled it off. Do you remember? Yeah, because even like Sony was kind of more clever about it because they also had the PlayStation Move controllers, which also sucked, and the PlayStation Eye, which is a camera thing essentially. Yeah. But they reused all that stuff with the Sony VR.
Yeah.
So it's like now it actually has a purpose again. I think they're a little smarter about this, but also Sony's been in the hardware game a lot longer than Microsoft has. Makes sense.
So finally, goodbye, Kinect. Never darken our door again.
I know. Almost 7 years ago it came out. That's crazy to me.
Ugh. I can't. Why did they make it for so long? It was so obviously not a good idea like a year in. But anyway.
Anyways.
Games numbers.
It's the most wonderful time of the month. We have September 2017's NPD numbers. And there's not too much that's surprising in here, although there is one kind of thing that's surprising. For those who don't know, the NPD group tracks the video game industry through sales. And generally gives you a good snapshot of where the industry's at, what's doing really well. It's let's see. Total spending for all video games have totaled $1.21 billion, which is up 39% year over year from last year. We have increases in hardware, console software, PC. Nope, actually PC software went down. And accessories all going up in percentages. If I had to guess, it's probably because due to the closeness of the holiday, people are starting to stock up with that shit. The big winner is Destiny 2. It was the top-selling game in September, driving more launch month consumer spent than any other 2017 release to date. With 1 month sales, Destiny 2 has become the best-selling game of 2017 year-to-date and the third best-selling game of the 12-month rolling period ending September 2017, trailing only behind Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare, and Battlefield 1. Who could have guessed it? Of course it's doing well. It's Destiny 2.
Yeah.
The overall software, so the top players. Number 1 is Destiny. Number 2 is NBA 2K18, very high up there. Higher than I thought it would be. Number 3 is Madden NFL. Number 4 is FIFA with that Pele. Got to get that Pele money.
Oh yeah.
Number 5 is Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is way higher than I thought it would be. And that is not counting digital sales. That is only hard copies.
Oh.
Number 6 is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Number 7, Never to Leave Us, is Grand Theft Auto 5. Always and always and always will always be selling great. Number 8 is NHL 18, which is great because NHL games usually don't sell very well, but good on them. They're I think they're really fun games. Number 9, hanging on, is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Also no digital sales. That is hard copies only, so that's very admirable. Number 10, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, which is a long burner. It's been there for a while.
Yeah, how long? That hasn't left the top 10 in a long time, has it?
No. Yeah, it's always up there. I think it's in that game had a slow burn. They revamped it a couple times. It has what Lawbreakers wish it had, which is a small but fervent user base keeping it alive. Unfortunately, Lawbreakers didn't find that. Rest in peace, Cliffy B. Number 11 is Mario Kart 8. Number 12 is Metroid: Samus Returns. Woohoo! I really want to play that game, although I don't have a 3DS. Because I fucking love Metroid. Number 13 is Pokken Tournament DX. Number 14, Overwatch. Number 15, Ark Survival Evolved. And that's not counting digital sales either. Which
that's definitely a game that I would assume would bump into the top 10 if you were including digital sales.
It probably would. Number 16, Uncharted Lost Legacy. Then we got NBA Live 18. We got Splatoon 2. Crash Insane Trilogy still on there. And Minecraft, another old timer that's never going to leave. The most interesting thing, though, is in the hardware sales. So the best-selling piece of hardware is the SNES Classic. The SNES Classic was overall the top unit selling hardware platform in this period, so for September. The PlayStation 4 leads all hardware platforms in consumer spent overall, but the SNES Classic is the top one for this reading. Which is crazy, and that's why you're never going to see a digital store in Switch, I don't think, because of how much they're fucking selling these things for. Like, that's insane. They're making a shit ton of money off this. So overall, video game industry spending is up. Not too surprising as we're entering the holiday months. And whoever said video game was going to be dying was I don't know. No one ever said that, I guess. I just made that up.
I mean, no, actually there has been lots of doom and gloom predictions as the cost of making games rises. There are people who keep predicting, and the fact that hardware, even though it still sells well, consoles are made less and less frequently. There are certainly people who have been out there saying, like, the video game industry is going to die because everything's going to get too expensive and they're not going to be able to sell enough stuff. And I'm like, nah, man, this is a big industry. It's making a lot of money.
Yes, fastest growing entertainment industry in the world.
I forgot to put the article up here, but there was a thing that I was reading about how they were comparing people who hours watched of Let's Plays as compared to major television networks and hours watched of TV, and it was like insane. It was like the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy. It just blew it out of the water. Like, if you
specifically in Europe.
If you took like YouTube hours watched of Let's Plays and then Twitch hours watched, it was like, I think it was like at least 10 times that of what people are watching on cable.
Oh, I'd believe it. I'd absolutely believe it.
And that actually made me like crazy a little bit, because not that it's bad, but because YouTube is still not a profitable company.
No.
Like, there's been all this, there was, I think we talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the Adpocalypse stuff, but YouTube, the reason why YouTube wants to kowtow to all these advertisers and make sure that they can get all these advertisers is because apparently they're still losing money somehow. And I'm just like, man, it must be so frustrating for the people who run YouTube to look at like how they get so much more watch time than like any other medium of anything, and they can't turn a profit.
No. I mean, it's Google owns it, so I think they're fine for the time being. But
for the time being, they are certainly fine. But I think it's definitely something that eventually we're going to see some changes with that, because eventually Google's going to want to make some money. It's not really sustainable.
The question is, like, will they eventually be like, hey, you need to pay a small fee to use YouTube at all? Like... And that would be crazy.
Yeah, and I think the reason why they haven't tried to do that yet is because they know that as soon as they do, everyone will just jump ship because someone else will make a website that is free.
Yeah, Amazon will, because they already own Twitch.
Yep.
I mean, that's the craziest thing, is that, Amazon and Google rule your life. Like, yeah, you don't have to give money to NBC and CBS anymore, but you're giving it right over to those guys, which, they do a better job of service, in my opinion, than the, cable networks and whatever. So, fuck them.
Yeah.
Because I knew definitely there was in terms of not just Let's Plays, but overall YouTube watching has eclipsed TV watching, like, in the United States now.
Yep.
So it's like, it's only a matter of time. Because I don't watch TV. Like,
I've actually gotten back into watching TV lately.
Really?
I don't know why. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing, but I'm so sick of binging stuff. And
yeah, we talked about this.
And having everything like on demand for me, which is stupid because that's obviously more convenient. But I've even started to miss like commercials.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, oh, I'll watch something on TV, and during the commercial breaks, those are the times when I'll like browse Twitter or Facebook or something. Whereas if I'm watching something, if I'm watching Netflix, like I started watching Stranger Things today because it's out today. I was like, okay, I need to soak in every minute of this. I don't want to look away from the screen because it's really good. But if that show had come out on television, there would have been commercial breaks, which would have given me a chance to like do other stuff. I mean, you can pause it, I suppose, but
it's not the same.
No, I don't know why I'm just like getting back into watching television and just having television on in the background. I kind of am like into it lately. I don't know.
Into an old man. You're turning into an old man.
Yep. I'm into it.
Your birthday is coming up. So you are becoming an old man.
Soon I'm going to be 29 and an old man.
An old man, almost 30, and just 1 foot in the grave. It does have, like, TV does kind of have this nice flow. And like we were talking about, it's just that like things like Stranger Things and all these shows are like such premium products. It's like super dense chocolate cake, and you just like, it's great to eat, but once you've eaten a lot of it, like I watched all of Mindhunter in one day. Oh, like, because it was just super great. This is David Fincher show on Netflix, and I was just like, I powered through all of it because I was super entranced by it. By the end, I was just like fucking, I don't know. I felt like I was going to go into a coma or something. Like, it was just too much.
That's definitely how I felt with some shows that I've binged lately. So I'm trying to space Stranger Things season 2 out a bit. But let's go back to video games.
One last thing, they should have Stranger Things. The creators should have made like fake 80s commercials, and you should have like the option to watch it with fake 80s commercials and breaks and stuff.
That would be great.
Yeah,
so good. So Nintendo, they made a big announcement. They had a Nintendo Direct, I think, right? Where they talked about some stuff earlier this week on October 24th. They announced Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which is their newest venture into smartphone gaming. And I will say, like, Nintendo has been really, really, really smart about their smartphone gaming games.
Yes.
They don't release them too quickly. They don't just re-release old games, which is something that like a lot of other companies have just decided to do.
Off Sega.
Yeah. Yeah. But they instead are like, okay, we're going to have these games that they're like obviously smartphone games, but they're like really smart adaptions of other properties that Nintendo has.
Well, this is like only like their fourth game they've come out with since getting Niantic or partnering with Niantic.
Yep.
There's been like Mario Runner, Fire Emblems, Pokemon, which wasn't even like their game, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
And then this one.
And then this. So this is going to basically just play like Animal Crossing, because it's like Animal Crossing happened before smartphones, but man, that was like a perfect smartphone game.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, it's Animal Crossing, but it has a camp theme, and it's a little stripped down. Basically, there's more emphasis on like some crafting things and just sort of customizing your like campsite, and then you can interact with your other friends who have the app and trade materials and stuff like that, and furniture. You can go fishing.
Gotta get those bells. Pay off Tom Nook, the land baron.
Dude, let me tell you something. If KK Slider is not in this game, I'm gonna revolt. But I think he is in it. He's got to be.
Dog? Is that the dog that plays guitar?
Yeah, KK Slider, the greatest musician of our time. Excuse
Okay.
you.
Okay, Lex.
Listen, I got a Nintendo Switch, and on that Nintendo Switch it said, hey, make an avatar. Here are some pictures you can use. And there was a KK Slider picture, and I was like, I don't even need to look at the other pictures.
That's my guy. That's
It's
your
KK
guy.
Slider. KK Slider with a purple background, and I am all set.
So were you big into Animal Crossing? Like,
Not at all.
no. Okay.
Played it for
just KK Slider.
Yeah, no, just KK Slider. I have his whole discography. I listened to all of it. But
Excellent.
no, actually, I would watch my friends play Animal Crossing a lot, and I was like, wow, this is super boring. I don't know why you
that's
like
what I
this
always
game.
thought too. I always thought that. I was just like, Jesus Christ, like, this is what you want to do with your
Yeah.
time? Like, Resident Evil's on this console.
Yeah. Or I think there was a point where one of my friends had purchased the Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes remake, and they had that like sitting on their table next to their GameCube, and they were just playing Animal Crossing, and I just wanted to throw a chair at them.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, Snake!
but no, it's
This makes sense, though. I don't have an iPhone, but I would probably play this, like, while I'm on the toilet or whatever.
Oh, no,
like,
totally. This is like a fantastic phone game. This works better, I'd say, as a app than it does as like a main console title.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the crazy thing. The first one came out for GameCube, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they couldn't. Well, they probably. When did that? Now I'm curious. Look up for me. When did the first Animal Crossing come out? But like it, like you said, it was before iPhones and shit like that. And it's like that when you think about it in that context that we have now of iPhones and stuff, you're like, wow, that hardware was not a good fit for this game. Like, it's this kind of like idle collect-a-thon, just easygoing like thing that you can play in little chunks, and you had to play it on a full-fledged console plugged into a TV. Like, that is so antithetical to like how games are made nowadays, or these kind of games at least.
2001.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ, it's actually longer back than I thought.
Yep.
Yeah, they couldn't have seen what modern phones were going to be back then, but they were definitely way ahead of the time, and I'm amazed it actually has taken them this long to do this. I predict this game's going to make a shit ton of money.
Yes, yes it is. Because, like you and I will agree with you, were saying earlier, we were never big fans of this game, but we would totally play this as a smartphone game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just in little 10-minute chunks, like, got 10 minutes while you're waiting for the whatever, the bus, whatever you want, whatever you just like, you want to not, you don't want to look at people in the real world, so you like look at your phone. You can be looking at this game while you're not looking at people. And,
as a quick aside, and I think this is sort of interesting, is I was watching this video about how it was about something else, but one of the things that it mentioned was phone gaming, and how way back in the day every company was like, yes, smartphone gaming is the future, we're going to make tons of stuff for smartphones, and then the smartphone gaming store just was not regulated and became horrible, and it's just like
giant trash heap.
Yeah, 99% of the stuff on there is just total garbage.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that now, after the store has already become total garbage, you have companies, this slow trickle of companies putting out really good phone games. So, like, Hearthstone is a fantastic phone game.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And then all the stuff Nintendo has done have been fantastic phone games.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to know how to design games to make good phone games.
And it's like the idea of this new sort of market medium of phone games, like, just took a while for people to figure out how to design well for it.
Right. And it also took the boldness of people like Nintendo and Blizzard being like, no, we're going to charge you for our game. Because, like, one reason that the unregulated game market on phones, and just the market in general, was that it was a huge race to the bottom. Where it's just like, how little can we charge? How little can we charge? And now it's like, everything's free. No one expects to pay for anything. So there's just $0 garbage games everywhere that have, sneaky, shitty in-game transactions and stuff. And Nintendo sits back, it's like, no, we're going to charge a premium. It's going to cost you some money to buy it, but we're going to leave you alone after that, To be fair, this Animal Crossing, I don't know if they mentioned in this article, but it does seem like it has a little bit of a microtransaction element to it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty sure this is gonna be free and then have microtransactions in it. Because we saw when they did Super Mario Run that was their game that was like set price and then no microtransactions. And out of the 3 phone games that they've done so far, that has done the worst.
Yes.
So
even though it has the prestige of the Mario title.
Yeah. So they've pretty much decided that, they're going to be doing everything with microtransactions, but I think in more of a Blizzard Hearthstone route where it's not obnoxious and horrible, and it doesn't ruin the game.
Yeah, I heard some people talking. They said that it's not that intrusive, and that the ramp is good for it. I have no problem with microtransactions as long as they're done well, as long as they're designed and ramped up too well, and it's not like just a hard stop. Like, no, you can't play anymore. Give us $5. That's
yes,
but yeah.
Speaking of other news that Nintendo put out, or actually they didn't put this out. This was something that people found out because of something Nintendo did recently.
Yeah. Yes. So the Switch got a update version 4.0.0, and surprise, surprise, you can use a GameCube controller, or more correctly, you can use the GameCube controller adapter, which I believe was for the Wii U. And you can plug it into your Switch, and it kind of works. And it says the Nintendo Switch version. Who is this from? This is from Nintendo Life writer Darren Calvert. The Nintendo Switch version 4.0 system update is a gift that keeps on giving. Aside from adding the ability to capture video gameplay clips and enabling the use of wireless headphones with a USB adapter, which I think would solve a little bit of the problem with those ridiculous Splatoon adapters.
Oh, yeah.
It seems that there was a rather fun secret addition that wasn't in the Nintendo's patch notes. I don't know why I said the Nintendo's like a 90-year-old man. It turns out that you can use the Wii U GameCube controller adapter with the system, so you can use the best gaming controller ever made, well, according to some on your Switch. I am some of those people because I think that the GameCube controller is the finest controller ever made by man.
Ever made by human hands.
Ever made, yes, by human minds and hands. So yeah, you use one of the adapters, you plug it into your Switch dock, go over to the controller settings page from the main menu, and press L plus R. Hopefully this is paving the way for an updated version of Super Smash Bros. That's what I'm guessing. I think that's the obvious look, is that they're looking for, it's going to be Smash for the Switch, Smash on Switch, Wii U Smash on Switch, or whatever they're going to call it.
There's also theorizing that we might see Melee or Brawl getting ported over, which, considering the fact that those are a little too recent for them to make a pocket console and sell 1 million copies of it with that on it, I think that's a possible thing that might happen.
That's a possibility. I definitely think that I don't think they're going to make a whole new version. I think they're going to take the Wii U version and slide it on over, kind of the way they did with Mario Kart.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if they got Melee or Brawl. I think it'd be smart to do Melee, seeing as that there's the fighting game community for that.
Mm-hmm, totally.
That game's fucking old now. But so that's the probable thing, because once again, a lot of people love Smash, and it's the Wii U's making a lot of good decisions, and it's doing really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if if they want to get Smash on there as quickly as possible. More important thing, Lex, yes or no, is the GameCube controller the finest controller in the universe?
in the universe. Yeah. I've actually used GameCube controllers very little because I did not have a GameCube. But I can tell you that the Wavebird is a fantastic wireless controller. And the fact that it came out when it did, and it was that good a wireless controller, and is still a really good wireless controller, is like extremely impressive.
Oh yeah. And the Wavebird kicks ass. Yeah, man, I love that controller so much. It's the shoulder buttons, the big ass A button. Had a really good joystick. It just felt great. It's the C stick. I don't know. I love it.
Do they still make Wavebirds?
Oh yes, I think so.
I'm gonna buy one.
You should just to have it.
Yeah, because then I can get that adapter, especially if they do, because I have Switch, and then especially if they put out Super Smash, because I would definitely do that. The only problem is that I don't have friends to play with me on the Switch, so getting the controller adapter that can have up to 4 GameCube controllers plugged into it would just be kind of sad, because there'd only be one plugged in.
It would. Yeah.
Oh
It does.
gosh, GameCube controller, Wavebirds. I don't know if these are official, but man, $35 for a 2-pack
Nice.
on the Amazon. I don't know if this is a third-party company, but they must be. But they
Probably.
look like Wavebird controllers, so like get excited because I'm gonna
Get
buy.
hype.
And by get excited, I mean I'm excited because I'm gonna buy a Wavebird controller.
Absolutely. I don't know if they mention it here in this article, but it does work with like all other Switch games. Like it
Yep.
works as if it's a normal controller.
Yep.
So I don't know how good the Nintendo Joy-Cons are, or the 5,000 configurations you can put them in. But I know that I like that Wavebird.
Joy-Cons are good. I will say from personal experience, it's good. It does not feel unnatural, even though it is a little bit weird. I have really big hands, so it's a little odd for me. I have tried when I played really necessary dual stick games like Breath of the Wild. When I've played it in handheld, I find it very difficult to control because the way I'm holding up the console puts my thumb on my right hand in the wrong place to get at the joystick that I need to get at to maneuver the camera. But when I have them on their controller, they're okay. It's still not perfect, but it's fine. And my hand doesn't like cramp up or anything, which would be terrible. The Pro controller, I'm sure, would be amazing. And I was considering buying one of those for when Doom comes out, because I definitely want like a more traditional controller for when I play that. But if I can hook up a Wavebird, I will play Doom with a Wavebird, and I will, and I will think to myself, man, when I first used the Wavebird in the early 2000s, I never thought I'd be playing this game with it.
Yeah. That's a weird thing to think about, playing Doom on a Wavebird.
It's really weird. But we have lollygagged quite a bit on the show. We're running a little low on time. We got about 15 minutes left. Let's breeze through these last couple of stories. One of them I'm just going to go through real quick is Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red's upcoming Cyberpunk game that they are working on. There was a leak that talks a little bit about its multiplayer functionality, and apparently the deal with this is that there are bars in the game where there are social hubs, and the idea is that different players can post different stuff in there, and then you can see what other players are posting about things. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting. There's there's actually a little more to the leak, but doesn't necessarily deal exactly with that. But I don't know. It sounds like I think you were saying before the show that it sounds very similar to the stuff that they did in GTA Online.
Yeah, it sounds like something Grand Theft Auto would do to me. Where it's like you go into a bar and there's like a cyber cafe and it has a fake internet that has actual internet posts on it or something.
Yeah.
Or like you'd have kind of these like hubs instead of kind of this. It sounds like they're trying to do, I'm going to use a big term here, something diegetic instead of something non-diegetic when it comes to connectivity between people. So instead of just being like, you can just open up your overlay game menu and interact with the online community that way. Instead, it's like, no, you actually have to go to a location. You have to open like a in-universe thing and use it and stuff like that. It looks like that's the kind of solution that they're trying to go for, which sounds very CD Projekt Red. That sounds like something they would do, I guess.
Yeah, and it's cool. It seems like a cool little thing. I'm very much looking forward to this game.
Oh, Jesus, who isn't?
This is going to be a cool game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to run it on anything when it comes out. But
nobody will.
But I'm going to watch people doing Let's Plays of it. It's going to be real pretty.
I mean, they've proved this little side note, but there's a great a guy named Daniel Dwyer, who's in games media, now has a series called No Clip. They're video game documentaries, and the most recent one he did was for CD Projekt Red in Poland. And it's the whole history of their company and the making of the Witcher games and Witcher 3. And they are a fucking special company. They got some magic shit going on over there. And if anyone has any concerns over the fate of single player games, I don't think they have to worry, at least not in Poland, because they're doing some good work over there.
All right. Well, moving on to our last sort of meaty story of the day. And we're gonna
I'm going to read the whole thing.
Now we're going to read the whole thing. The podcast will be 3 hours today, just letting you know. But we need to go through it a little quickly, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
But
it's straightforward. Last week we talked about the unfortunate closing of Visceral, the company that was heading up a single-player Star Wars game written, directed by Amy Hennig, who was the writer of the Uncharted games. It was a big... it was anticipated. A lot of people really wanted it, and EA shuttered the whole studio and closed the game down. And at that time, during the reporting, the hot takes were flying hot and heavy, Lex. A lot of people said this is the death of single-player games. They're untenable in the current marketplace, that everyone wants games as service games. And I said... I remember saying this. I said, I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm sure Jason Schreier will come out with a big piece and it will expose actually what happened, and we'll know for sure. And hey, here we are. Jason Schreier released a big piece explaining in great detail what happened to Visceral. And this is just like Jason Schreier is like the people want to say games journalist. He's a games journalist. He actually does fucking journalism, and this is games journalism. He interviewed tons of sources. He has tons of sources, and this is credible writing. He's backing up with, secondary and tertiary sources. It's a scoop. It's a real scoop. And basically, at the end of the day, all those hot takes about the end of single player games were pretty much wrong. And it's a little column A, column B, column C in terms of why this all went down. There was a lot of things going on. There was clashes between Amy Hennig and some of the design team. There was problems because no one knew how to use the Frostbite engine. There was problems with just Visceral not knowing how to make this kind of game and not knowing the kind of studio structure they needed. There was problems with EA. They wanted something perhaps different than what Visceral wanted to make. And the problems go back as far back as Battlefield Hardline, where Visceral was basically working on a game that they didn't know how to make, and it threw them for a loop, and then they changed over again, and then they changed over again, and the timing was bad. EA didn't give them enough resources, and the game was just fucked. Like a lot of games, it just didn't come together, but this one was a lot more high profile. So, EA is to blame a little bit there, but there were a lot of other problems beyond just EA being, money hungry.
Definitely.
And everyone should actually read the article. Like, it took me like half an hour to read it because it's fucking huge. But it is in depth, point by point. It's really fucking good.
I'm going to post a link to this on our social media because I do want people to check this out because it is real good and real in depth.
Real in depth, yeah. If if any kids out there want to be video games, fucking pay attention to Jason Schreier and Patrick Klepping and those kind of guys because they're actually doing it, getting the scoops.
So, now we're going to move to our last story, and then we're going to talk about games that have come out.
They're kind of related.
They're kind of related. There was a feature in Polygon talking about how today is October 27th, and it's one of the biggest release dates in history, ? Turns out that article almost immediately goes on to say that that's not true, so it's a little clickbaity in its titling, which was unfortunate. But, the guy who wrote it, Jeremy Parrish, went and looked at release dates of stuff basically throughout video game history and found all of the big dates. And he also talks a lot about how big launches came to be in the industry and how it wasn't originally that way. Apparently, in the 80s and the early 90s, because retailers just thought of video games as toys, they didn't really pay attention to release date stuff as much. Things just kind of got up on shelves whenever. And then in the early 90s, and I believe it was the NES in Japan.
Yeah.
It was something else, but it was in Japan. There was a whole big thing where people in Japan were lined up around the block for the release of this video game thing. And they were like, "Oh, that's those weird Japanese always doing their weird stuff."
It was Dragon Quest.
Oh, Dragon Quest 3, yes.
Yeah,
In
and
the
that actually, it's caused like problems with like the Japanese economy because so many people are like leaving work to line up to get this game.
in the late 80s, and then
Yeah.
some American retailers decided, I think specifically Walmart and Target decided that they were in the 90s, they were going to move video games from the toy section to the electronics section and put them alongside movies and CDs. And at that point, suddenly people started paying more attention to them and seeing them as more serious and seeing their release dates as more serious.
Compact discs, Lex? Do you know how much data you can store on them?
Oh my gosh, so much. More than a floppy, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But
your dad's media storage.
Yep. The what was I gonna say? So Sega apparently did this big thing in 1992 with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and they labeled its release Sonic Tuesday, spelled it Sonic with a 2 for Tuesday.
Because of course,
that was that is such.
Sega of America. That's some classic 90s Sega of America.
Yeah, bullshit. I was gonna say that is like the most 90s thing.
So it had a lot of attitude.
Yeah. Dude,
too.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't. All right.
Yeah.
But so they did this. They made it a big deal. They got like people to line up for it. And then a year later, Mortal Kombat decided to follow suit with Mortal Monday. They had a whole big ad for it, which is in this article and is like the stupidest ad I've ever seen. It's awful. And after that, things started to slowly sort of blow up. This article talks a lot about game consoles and how their releases sort of differed from gaming releases. And I think that it's kind of unfair to draw that comparison, because if the thing you're trying to talk about is size of release, and we're trying to compare today's video game releases with releases of yesteryear, and you start bringing consoles into it, that's going to skew your numbers because consoles have bigger releases than games.
Oh, absolutely. Generally speaking.
But it does talk about the Dreamcast.
I love this Dreamcast ad.
Yeah, man. The Dreamcast ad in here it is just horrifying.
$99.99. I remember that. I remember in those commercials. It's thinking.
Yeah, the tagline for it was artificial intelligence hint. You know it's alive. Worse, it knows it's alive.
Yeah.
Which is actually funny because that kind of marketing would have made way more sense with the Xbox One.
Yes.
Because the Xbox One is actually a console that like will respond to your commands, and like it's not an AI thing, but with the Kinect and everything, you could market it as like an AI thing, and it would like make sense from a marketing perspective. Whereas the Dreamcast was just like a console.
This is the console.
It didn't have any fancy commands that like would make sense for an AI marketing perspective. But anyway, it
had online connectivity, one of the first ones.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, so Phantasy Star Online, gotta have that. But it talked about how the Dreamcast launched with like a fairly, for the time, a very big game library, and then the Sony decided they needed to up the ante, so that they launched with an even bigger game library, and that's kind of what started the trend of consoles launching with a significant amount of games to play, which was interesting, like a little factoid there. And then the article goes on to talk about big releases of yesteryear, and I guess the today's launches are not as big as some, but still are probably going to flesh out to being one of the bigger launches that have happened.
Yeah.
Very
it's
likely.
Crazy that and it's not on it's on a weird day of the week for video game releases. It's strange. Yeah. I wonder why. Maybe it's just a chance, but it's, these things are usually planned out fucking years in advance.
Well, so. Yeah, I mean, apparently games usually come out on Tuesday. Like Sonic.
Yeah. Right, Sonic. to Tuesday.
But that always struck me as weird because it's like, yes, if you're into video games, you're going to know that. But the general public would not assume that. They would assume it would come out when other media comes out, which is like Fridays. Because that's what people think of with movies and stuff like that. So I think the game industry shifting towards Fridays, kind of just makes more sense, especially if they want to appeal to more people. And I'm kind of surprised it wasn't done sooner. But
I forgot there is a reason why it was on Tuesdays. I can't remember why.
Because of Sonic, obviously.
Was it Sonic? It must have been Sonic. No, there was like some like industry reason. I can't remember what it was.
But those, speaking of today's big releases, those 3 big games.
Yeah, games.
Assassin's Creed Origins. The assassin goes to Egypt.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I have no jokes.
Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, get Nazis out of America.
Yeah.
And Super Mario Odyssey, the best swing music you'll ever hear in a Mario game.
Man, I watched a little bit earlier today. I watched Day 9 play Mario Odyssey for a little bit. This is the first I've seen like anybody playing it, and that game looks fucking incredible.
Looks real good. So
he says at one point, I agree. He's like, when you play some games like this, you sometimes forget if you haven't played a Nintendo game in a while. It's like, oh yeah, Nintendo's the only people actually making games. No one else knows how to do it right. Like,
I mean, that's the thing. Nintendo really, really knows how to put together a game, and it makes sense because they are very selective with the kind of stuff they put out, how often they put it out. So you can tell that they're putting all that extra care.
Yeah, and I'm so happy. Like, I'm so happy that Nintendo is doing well nowadays because it gives them the autonomy to do crazy shit like Mario Odyssey and not have to worry about like if it's the best-selling thing ever. You know,
yes. That being said, it will be the best-selling thing ever.
It will, because if they had a publisher and they're like, okay, what is this Mario game about? It's like, well, you throw your hat at things and you become electricity, a frog, a car, and a human. And the publisher would be like, no.
Yeah,
that's not a game you're making.
The EAs of the world would say, is that market tested? I don't know if that's market tested enough.
Yeah. But Nintendo fucking that design, Nintendo design and that Nintendo polish, it's just like everything. It's just mwah.
So Super Mario Odyssey is highly anticipated because it is the first true open world Mario game since what, like Sunshine?
Galaxy. Yeah, it's the first open world one since Sunshine. First like 3D platformer one since Galaxy 2.
Mm-hmm. So that makes it pretty hotly anticipated. We look at Assassin's Creed Origins, and that's not as hotly anticipated, but still fairly hotly anticipated because a lot of people are seeing it as a return to form for the Assassin's Creed franchise, or that's what they're hoping it's going to be, because Assassin's Creed, when they were coming out every year, you could really tell that quality was suffering. There was a lot of bad glitching going on. And gameplay was getting very much less creative, and they took that hiatus, that year off, and now it seems like, at least according to a lot of early reviews, that they have come back at the franchise with a lot of gusto and have really made an Assassin's Creed game definitely worth playing.
Cool. I've always wanted to like the Assassin's Creed games. I just never have.
I mean, I've liked the earlier ones back when it was a new property still and they hadn't burnt themselves out so bad. But also Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, I mean, just looks like a really awesome shooter. The new Wolfenstein New Order, right? Yeah. Was so cool. All the stuff we've seen from 2 leading up to it has been super awesome, so I'm very excited. Not if
you're a right winger though.
No, then you're insulted because
I know some people are like, oh, this is just like a lot of leftist propaganda. I'm like, go fuck yourself.
I mean, I think it takes a special kind of stupid to look at the Wolfenstein franchise and be like, oh, that's propaganda. They've changed this game to be like propaganda now. And I'm like, nah, dude. Every Wolfenstein game since the early 80s has been about killing Nazis.
Yeah. And you kill Robo Hitler in the end of the one.
Yes!
That was in like 89 or whatever.
None of the core concept of the game has changed since the 80s.
So it just so happens that... Excuse me, I'm choking. It just so happens that we actually have Nazis around to get offended at this shit now.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're a gamer who didn't used to be offended at Wolfenstein and are now offended at Wolfenstein, it's not Wolfenstein that's changed. It is you that has changed.
You are the one who has changed.
Yes. But anyway, so that game looks really, really cool. I'm sad because I will be getting it, but because I have a Switch, I will be getting it on the Switch, and that's just going to be next year at some point. So I'm going to probably have to wait like a year until I play this, but man, I'll be playing it, and I will be having a lot of fun with it.
I got my graphics card back, so I might just play it on the old PC now that I can bump. Now I got a good old pixels pusher. running back again.
Excellent. In terms of upcoming games, we have Cartoon Network.
Bubsy!
Yeah, Bubsy. The Woolies Strike Back.
Oh, is that that was real? I thought that was a joke when they were like announcing that game. Bubsy sucks. Anyway, sorry, I was taken aback by that.
So, yeah, we're also going to have Cartoon Network Battle Crashers, which is...
What the hell is that?
It's funny, I was looking at the cover for it, and it's all of the big deal Cartoon Network shows in a side-scrolling beat-em-up game. It's probably not going to be a good game, but two of the prominent shows that appear on the cover of the packaging are Regular Show and Adventure Time. Regular Show, which I believe is already off the air, and Adventure Time, which is about to be off the air.
That's funny.
So
is it actually? Is Adventure Time going away?
It has. I think it might be done, or it has like 3 or 4 episodes left.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because Pendleton Ward left?
He left a long time ago. I think it's just because they're on like their 9th season,
right.
And ratings have finally declined.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then, what else? Monopoly for Nintendo Switch. Whoa.
I love Monopoly.
Calm down, everybody.
Yeah, I love me some Monopoly. Monster Jams, crush it.
Yeah, that's... I don't know. I'll check.
We got
check it out.
They got the 6th entry in the Summon Night.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Sure.
It's for the Vita, and Vita means life, so obviously.
Yeah.
But also, Call of Duty World War II is coming out on the 3rd. That's actually a big deal.
Yeah.
I've been...
yeah.
We've been goofing with a lot of these upcoming games, but actually that one is a big deal. And then after that, we're going to have to wait till next show to talk about the stuff that is coming out later. But
like Sonic fucking Forces.
Get amped.
Anyway, way too fast.
We are out of time, way out of time. This has been Don't Copy That Floppy, a video game news podcast broadcasting live on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. You can find our show archives on www.chipbit.net, our amazing hosts. You can also find us on iTunes. If you want to go on iTunes and give us a rating and review, that would be awesome. Please do that. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are our big ones by searching Don't Copy That Floppy Podcast, or on Twitter our handle is @DCTF Podcast. If you have a whole bunch of money and you would like to support the show and allow me to buy Wavebirds, as many Wavebirds as I can handle.
Just a tub full of Wavebirds. Scrooge McDuck into those birds.
Yes. If any of them break, I'll always have a backup.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you would like to do that, you can go to our Patreon page by searching Don't Copy That Floppy on Patreon, and you can give us money every month to help us do the show and get access to cool bonus content where me and very cool show co-host Dan talk about non-video game related things, mostly Dungeons & Dragons. So,
hey, can I join that podcast?
No.
Damn it.
You're not cool enough for that. So, yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And Chris, what do people have to remember?
Please don't copy that floppy.